hopefully this book and other books I've written will help veterans and understand there is a way to find forgiveness, and maybe they'll think of a way to go back to Vietnam and fix their demons as well.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring a powerful true story, a story of war, a story of trauma, and a story of ultimate healing. It is one that is resonating with viewers and readers searching for veteran stories, PTSD recovery, and emotional memoirs. The name of the book, Return to Vietnam. It is written by a terrific author and Vietnam veteran, Stan Bain. He takes readers on a life-changing journey back to the battlegrounds of his past to confront the demons that haunted him for half a century. This gripping memoir reveals buried memories, heartbreaking loss, and an unexpected moment of grace that helped him finally find peace. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Stan, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great to have you on the show. Let's turn back the hands of time. Let's go back to Vietnam. What year were you drafted, I presume, and when did you go overseas? How old were you?
Right now I'm 80, and I arrived in Vietnam in July of 1967, and then I left in June 1967. Then I left in 1968 in July. I spent 13 months there.
Yeah, a long time. How old were you at the time?
Oh gosh, I want to say, shoot, probably early 20s, 22, 21.
Yeah. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
Oh, I got caught in a draft. I was going to college at the time, and Uncle Sam decided they needed me more than going to college. So
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So early 20s, you're in Vietnam, a place so far from home, so different from home, a land you never imagined being. And I'd imagine it was a tough 13 months.
there were times I wondered if I was going to make another day, and then other times it was enjoyable. I met a lot of neat people, children, my comrades, and so forth. And there were times where we depended on each other.
Yeah.
My position, I wasn't my MOS wasn't a combat veteran or a soldier, but a support. But even though that I wound up in combat mostly because I volunteered to do those things. And my job there was kind of boring, and so I wanted something more exciting. And sometimes I kind of wished I didn't volunteer, but that's the way it goes.
Exactly. At one point, you became very close to orphans.
Correct.
Tell us about that part of your service.
Well, when I was stationed in Dogtown in the Mekong Delta, was a town close by Mito, and we had a detachment of individuals there, and I volunteered to do the commuting the information back and forth once a week. And during that time, I was able to spend the night there and then socialize the town. And I came across this orphanage. And so I went inside and talked to the nuns there, and they showed me around. And a lot of these kids were, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And they were mostly orphans. Their parents were killed by the Viet Cong or other situations. And I got real acquainted with them, and I turned out I fell in love with a couple of them. They called me Papa GI all the time, and I just I love them to death. So I always look forward to going to the orphanage.
Yeah. Yeah, children can really grab onto your heart like that, and it's hard to let go. But you had to let go because two of the children there were tragically killed. Tell us what happened.
Oh boy. It we were notified that the PT was doing local attacks and stuff, and while I was in Mito, me and three other soldiers asked to go to the orphanage and provide some security until the orphan troops showed up to do that. Well, when we got there, I found a nun and a baby dead in the courtyard, and we felt that we had to go find the kids, and we found our way to the main building, and then we took ground fire and we hid behind a rock or wall, and I could hear children whimpering.
Mm.
I could smell diesel fuel, and I looked up over the wall, and there's the two kids held by the BC soldiers, and they were drenched in diesel fuel. And I just had a really bad feeling. War in Vietnam, the Viet Cong had no respect for life. Uh, they just arbitrarily kill people if they had to. And I really had a bad feeling, and I prayed to God that please spare these children. And about that time, I heard them screaming, and I looked up, and they were on fire. And the VC were using them as a way to get to us. And I just prayed to God, give me strength. And I stood up and I shot them both. I couldn't allow them to, I couldn't allow them to die in such pain. And I carried that guilt for a long time. It's the reason why I never fathered children. I didn't feel that I was worthy of the honor. It's a decision I now regret, of course, but back then that was it. And that haunted me with nightmares, and I contemplated suicide a couple times, and I just then the opportunity came to, thanks to my cousin, to go back to Vietnam. Um, I thought someday I would do that, but it's a very expensive trip. But thanks to my cousin, was able to go back. Uh,
That was 2019 when you went back. Tell us what
Correct.
that trip was like in 2019.
It was much different than I expected. The only place I had difficulties was customs, going through customs. The customs agents were all military, and he didn't like my Vietnam hat, so he'd give me a bad time about getting in. But other than that, the rest of the trip, I felt like we were royalty, the way the people treated us. I did have an opportunity to meet with a Viet Cong soldier. We visited for a couple hours, and he had lost a leg and excuse me, an arm and an eye during a battle. And we kind of laughed that he said he was drowned downtown a couple times, especially during the Tet Offensive. And so we probably were shooting at each other, not knowing it. And we kind of laughed about that. And then we went on a cruise down the Mekong River, just kind of get a touch of the feel of the area again. And one of the places we stayed at was a mom and pop um, type accommodations that was in the jungle itself. And I wanted my cousins to, feel that jungle feeling. And after that, then we started looking for the orphanage. We had a great um, a driver and a tour guide that spoke really good English. And the travel agency that we arranged it through asked me for a bunch of pictures of the orphanage because that was my main point to find the orphanage. And so they took several months and they couldn't find any clues of what's going on. But the tour guide, it was November 11th. It was happened to be a Veterans Day weekend when he suggested that we go to the Catholic Church because they have an orphanage, and he understood that they also had an orphanage during the war. So we went there, and the orphanage was destroyed in 1974, then rebuilt in 1978. Well, I felt that this had a sense it might be the right area, but I just couldn't grasp it. And we decided to go to the convent and see if anybody there knew anything about the war during '67. And that's when I was totally surprised. I was not expecting anything like this. So I met a nun, Sister Renee. She was the last of the living nuns during the Vietnam War. And I asked her about it, and she said, I remember the attack. She was a principal at the time at the school next to the orphanage, and they were at lockdown. And she knows, and I told her about the nun I found in the courtyard, and she said that was her friend. And uh, and she said also there were two children that were killed, but she didn't know how or why. So I took the time to explain what happened to her, what happened to them, and it became very emotional.
Yeah.
And she said a prayer, and I wasn't expecting the prayer, and I just felt like an elephant was lifted off my back. I couldn't believe the forgiveness, I guess, of believing myself for this. And she held my hand, and through my interpreter, we were able to communicate. The funny part of this whole thing was I asked her for her email address so I could communicate with her. And she asked her, what was the internet? What was the email?
Yeah.
Anyway, the main office displayed that, but anyway, we weren't able to keep in contact.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Wonderful that you made that journey. Wonderful that you met up with Sister Renee to get that burden off your chest, to get it off your heart, to get it off your conscience, because you really had no culpability in that situation. You were trying to do the merciful thing. You love those children. You watch them being used as tools by the Viet Cong, and you did the right thing. It's hard to come to terms with that, but you did.
It
And
was.
I think Renee helped you, Sister Renee, helped you come to terms with that. And that's the
Yes,
power of prayer. That's the power of God. That's the power of confession, really. And I think in
correct.
many ways, that's what it was a confession. And you realize that, you know, what had haunted you, obviously will stay with you for the rest of your life, but shouldn't be a source of pain.
Yeah,
Um, and those children are in heaven with God, no doubt.
correct.
Um, Writing this book was helpful. I know you find writing kind of like a therapy. You've been writing a
Yes.
lot of books. Tell us a little bit about your writing career.
Well, I had no intention to ever be an author. I read very little books. In fact, if in third grade, if I would have told my third grade teacher I'd be an author someday, she would have died from a heart attack from laughing so hard. That's how bad my grammar was. But my writing just came or become an author was because of situations that occurred at I attended a meeting with the VA counselor, and he wanted to know what was going on and signed me a counselor. And during that time, I found that my counselor said, "Well, when you think of these nightmares and stuff, write things down that we can talk about." And well, anyway, the little sticky note becomes sentences, and it becomes paragraphs, and become pages. And I was lucky to have a secretary on the fire board that knew about writing books and so forth. So she really helped me putting my first book together, You're Never Alone, the title. And it took almost 3 years to complete it. But when I went to the publisher to pick up my books and he handed me my first book, it was like tears were going down my cheek. I could not believe me, Stan Bain, wrote a freaking book. I could not believe that.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. I realized that writing was a way for me to escape. And a lot of my days start early in the morning, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and I wake up because I'm in a lot of pain because of Agent Orange and other things. And I find by sitting down and writing, especially now my novels, I get involved in the story and the research and stuff. And I get to the point I'm so involved in the what I'm doing that I forget about I'm in pain. And I put myself in the story. So really writing helps me with every day. I don't write every day, but it helps me get through the times. And um, I think two things have really saved my life. One was a trip back to Vietnam and the ability to actually write and enjoy it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're glad you are writing. We're glad that you would shock your third grade teacher. I think I would shock my third grade teacher too. I think she said, "You'll never amount to anything, Mr. Crawford." I think that's what Third
I
grade
think I've heard that
teachers.
too.
Yeah, exactly. You're never going to amount to anything, Mr. Bain. I think that's how third grade teachers talked to us back in the day.
Yeah,
Hopefully, they're a little kinder, a little gentler right now. But your books are wonderful. They're available on Amazon. The links are below this interview. The book we've been focusing on today is a wonderful book. It's so enlightening, it's so heartfelt. It is
mhm,
called Return to Vietnam. It is an
correct.
unforgettable journey of pain, memory, and grace. And let's underscore that. It's a journey of grace as well that
Mhm,
reminds us that healing is possible even after
correct.
decades of pain.
Yeah.
Stan, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Mhm. Well, thank you for allowing me to be here and telling me my story. And I look forward to further writing. And hopefully, this book and other books I've written will help veterans and understand there is a way to find forgiveness. And maybe they'll think of a way to go back to Vietnam and fix their demons as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think with most wars, you take young people, mostly men, at a very young age, and I think that's on purpose, where they haven't even formed a sense of identity yet, and then thrust them into
Mm.
impossible situations where life and death decisions are constantly being made, and no one should have to make those decisions,
No.
particularly when, in many cases, it's against their will. They didn't want to be
Yes.
drafted. They didn't want to be there. They didn't want to have a gun in their hand. So it's a tough situation for many, many veterans, and I think this book will be helpful to so many veterans. So thanks so much for writing it, Stan. To the
Mhm.
folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.